everyone, and welcome back to the Black Girls Gamer Online Summit. I am Diehard Diva. I am so excited to be here, and today I will be your moderator for this panel where we will explore where we're inserting gaming into education and inspiration that drives the students for both entering the industry and also learning differently. Now, before we get in, let us meet our panelists. Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. How are we doing today?
Fantastic. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy Saturday. Happy August. Happy Leo season to my fellow Leos out there. Whoop, whoop.
Come on, Leos.
Now, before we get into the questions, can we have everyone introduce ourselves and tell everyone a little bit about yourself? Dr. Katrina, if you'd like to start off.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Katrina Starks, and I am in the Game Studies and Design program at the University of Illinois.
Perfect. Welcome. And Dr. Keel.
Hi, everyone. I am a Cotton Postdoctoral Fellow and lecturer in the Anthropology Department at Princeton University, and I research race and games.
Welcome, welcome. And Professor Kishana, welcome in.
Hello, so glad to be here. I'm Kishana Gray. I am a full professor at the University of Michigan in the School of Information, and I study video games also, and I'm really glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, everyone. Really excited to start panels and get right into the questions, because this is a really important topic with gaming and education. So to start off, tell us about how you crafted your career in gaming academia.
Mine, I accidentally used The Sims as a life coach. That's how I got into this. And I was looking at the little life meters at the bottom, and I made a character first time playing. This is original Sims way back when. And I made a character who was like me. And I looked at the life meters, and I realized that her social meter was always in the red. And then I looked back, and I looked at my life, and I was like, okay, my social meter's in the red. So how that relates to academia is, I thought, well, are any psychologists onto this? Because I accidentally diagnosed myself, and then changed my life socially. And that led me to a master's and eventually a PhD in psychology, where I looked at media effects and how games affect people as they play them.
Nice. Akil?
Yeah, I'm going to keep this long story short. I've told this story plenty of times. I had my first daughter when I was about 20. I had to do a bunch of jobs I hated, super tired, hated my life. But I realized that the one thing I always loved was video games. And that was the one thing I would come home super tired to experience, to bring just, some joy in my life other than seeing from my family. And leaving class one day, I was like, if I'm going to be happy in life, I'm going to have to engage with what makes me happy. And then I eventually started a PhD program studying how Black individuals use video games in order to explore their identity and create community, and I've never turned back. So yeah.
Nice. And Kishana, what about you?
Yeah, well, for me, it was an accident, right? Because first, I didn't know I could do this. So back in grad school, I think I started grad school around 2005, 2006. And I was thinking I had to be the serious academic and study these serious topics. And we didn't really have many examples like in the gaming space, especially in the console space. And there was a little bit of research like in PC gaming, and there was a little bit of research like around like World of Warcraft, like at the time, but nobody took it seriously. Academia didn't take it seriously. And I didn't really get into it like as an academic inquiry really until I was in graduate school, Arizona State University, and the topic that I was working on, I was doing research on Hurricane Katrina, and how Black folks were using comment sections to kind of connect with family and stuff, because we didn't have social media at the time. Like, this is a long time ago, friends. People are like, what? There was no social media? So it was just really interesting just seeing how people use like the spaces like to connect. But it was very heavy, because every time I would go in there and like hear stories and read stories, like it was emotionally like traumatizing. People couldn't return to New Orleans and the Gulf area, all that stuff. Sorry, I'm gonna get to the point. But I remember my office mate, he was like he was playing I think EverQuest maybe. Yeah. And I was wondering why he never did real work. And And he said, "This is my work, Kishana. I'm doing my dissertation. Like I'm doing an ethnography of the space." And I said, "You can do that?" And he said, "It's your dissertation. You can do whatever you want." And so that's when I decided, because I was playing Gears of War. Somebody called me the N-word. And I said, "I think somebody should study that." And nobody had studied it. So that's kind of what got me, being called the N-word in online gaming is what got me into gaming.
See, gaming definitely put us all through a journey, and I really like all the specifics that we all have experienced throughout gaming itself. Now, over the years, it seems that the relationship between education and gaming is growing rapidly. What are the changes you've seen so far? Dr. Katrina?
I'm seeing more games being more accepted in classrooms, K through 12 education, and I think one of the main differences is that there was a push towards using games in the classroom and using them to teach, and now I think the push is more using the creation of games, so teaching game development rather than just using games, and teaching STEM through that. Or STEAM, as they call it now, because they've added arts in there. But there's so much that you can teach through game development by the process of making your own game, and I think that's lovely because everyone can make anything.
Very true. Very true. Dr. Akil?
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback off what Dr. Stark said, learning through video games is definitely a thing that is being a little bit more accepted, but we've kind of always had that to a degree. We've had like the Oregon Trail or Reader Rabbit or these other things. But what's so fascinating is that there's now an emphasis not so much on what video games can teach you in terms of education, but the aspects of what play can do for education and for classroom learning in and of itself, right? It's not just like let's learn math through this game. It's let's play this game. Let's work on our social skills. Let's work on and engage. And the other big thing is, of course, the sort of monopolization of like esports on campuses that necessarily needs everybody wants to sort of get their hand in the money pot of like what video games can be on campus if we can get scholarships and sponsors and all these other things. But I'm gonna stop there.
And
I think for me,
Shauna?
yeah, I appreciate those responses. I think for me, I guess I get troubled by what the education spaces have done to games, right? So there's a few trends that trouble me. First off, it's like this concept that if you're playing games in the classroom, they have to lead you towards something. Like you can't just play for play's sake because we don't have play in the classroom, right? So if you're playing a game, it has to teach you math, it has to teach you science, you have to learn coding. And I'm like, I don't feel like there's like enough protective space and like protection space around play and games, like inside the classroom. The other thing, just like Akil brought up, is like how everybody is like looking like gaming is only important if it could generate money or if it's used for like recruiting or if it can do something, shiny. It's like, so it hasn't really been accepted like in real ways in education spaces. So for instance, we don't question, the importance of like math or history or science like inside the classroom. So I'm hoping that we can reach a point of where we don't question games being in the space and the gaming technologies like being inside the classroom that don't have to do so much work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. It is weird to see how far we've seen like the growth of just video gaming itself, but now we're kind of in this point where we're able to see video gaming in the educational space, not only just teaching, students or even with training stuff. It's insane to see how the two can kind of coincide, if that makes sense. There seems to be a huge focus on esports from universities and colleges, but are there other areas in which gaming and academia can kind of intersect that are being overlooked right now? What do you think?
Well, in corporate training, I'm seeing a lot. I was at the mall and I ran into someone who was a doctor, and she was asked me what I did, and I said, I'm a game design teacher, and she talked about this microscope they had in medical school, and the microscope, I think it's like $20,000. It's in a clean room. Classes have to book time in there, and they can go and they can try it once after reading about it and learning about it, and then they leave the room until they need it again. And I thought there's so much potential to break that. Why don't they make a VR version and you can go in and you can train and you can see the calibrations of where you're supposed to, touch things and what buttons to move and not break anything. So I think that there's going to be some places in the in one of my college experiences, they created a virtual ER because you can teach someone to go and work on a virtual patient. They're pretty good at the dolls, but you need to simulate the sights, the sounds, the chaos around you. And so they put that in VR. So I'm seeing a lot of real world uses of course, in higher education, you can prepare people for an environment without having to push them into an environment. And one of the things we're doing at the U of I, which I absolutely love, is an archaeology teacher said, going out to digs is expensive, and then it can be dangerous because sometimes the things that you want to see are in countries that are blocked off for certain reasons. And so she's doing a VR archaeology project where they're simulating a dig. So I love that you can people can go out in the world, and I encourage people to do that, but you can also bring the world to people.
Very true. Yeah. There's so much research definitely there, so we can definitely tap into that more. Akil, what do you think?
Yeah, I think a place where academia specifically is sort of falling behind or not engaging with is video games, not just as play, but as like sort of social platform in that case. So we went through an entire pandemic and everybody was stuck on Zoom and Skype, and well, Skype sort of dropped the ball, but with everybody else, or in Discord. But very few professors outside of like Dr. Tom Bilstroff or Dr. Gray here were using video games as a site where like you can continue to engage or host classes or meetups or anything like that. Like we were watching Black folks have church on an Animal Crossing and all these other places, right? And these are really hotbed places where individuals can come in and have their classes, have presentations, give finals. Like like people are forgetting that like the games like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14 are just as heavily social areas where people need to communicate and meet and love and hate one another in whatever way, and just in a way that's not just like about slaying dragons. So yeah.
Right. Okay.
I'll yes to all that. One of the things that troubles me when I think about games on like a collegiate campus or in high school spaces, I'm thinking about like the culture that's like around it. So I feel like that there's like not enough understanding of like games and what games can do, which is why we're still very limited on what games have been doing like in academic spaces. So like, they're supplementing or supplanting or complementing like existing academic curricula. I'm thinking about, just in Dr. Stark's, talking about the tools, that can be that other people are doing, in that space. But I think that there are games. I don't want us to act like that everybody loves games in these academic spaces. Games is not serious. They don't take it seriously. They see it as still child's play. They see it as something that should just be relegated like to the margins still. So I think we still need to work on doing something like about the cultural understanding like around games. Like there are so many of our colleagues that still, are thinking like, oh, games cause violence. I'm like, that you still on that? There's so many other things here. And then they're like, oh, all we know is like Pac-Man. I'm like, you still on that? I mean, OG classic game, but you still on that? Like, and there's so much that we have to like fill in the blanks to get them acclimated to what games are now. And I feel like we haven't really, well, at least in my experiences, I haven't been able to have like these elevated kinds of conversations that I want to have around games, because I have to get through all the silly stuff that people, people coming into like my lab and laughing at us for like playing games. And they're playing games in here like this, we're not serious. And so I have to get over that and get out of my feelings first. But I think there are still like so many kind of conversations just for people just to understand like what gaming is.
Yeah.
Right. It is really weird where it can be parents or even individuals who don't game themselves, and they're so quick to judge, and they basically laugh at us saying like, well, why is this grown adult playing video games? Meanwhile, it can be so beneficial. Like we've seen how much video game has improved within basically the last 10 years, and we can see how how resourceful it can be for us, and not just for pleasure or for fun, but also for academia as well. This is for you, Kashana. You've written books on the relationships between gaming culture and also discrimination. Do you think there needs to be more academics that specialize in gaming?
Yeah, but they might not get a job. Okay, so let me unpack that for a second. Okay, remember I I just said academia doesn't really take gaming seriously.
Right.
That's reflected in hiring practices as well. And I think for so much of us that, specialize in gaming, sometimes we have to hide and shield and obscure what we actually do to fit within the larger narratives of what academia will accept and what academia will allow, right? So we'll have to say, oh, we study digital media or digital cultures or new media, emerging technologies, digital infrastructure, platform studies, like everything to skirt around saying gaming, So again, there's like this need for the culture, for our colleagues, to kind of take what we do like seriously. So that's why I think it's like so important that I remember there was a moment in my career where some folks were wanting me to shift to the more serious theory building work. Like one of my secondary research is like Black cyberfeminism, and so a lot of folks were saying, won't you do that? This gaming stuff, aren't you done with that yet? I'm like, nah, bro, I'm not done. I'm never going to be done with it. And I refuse to do it. Yes. So that's why, that research has like been dormant, because I want people to see that you can be a serious scholar and have these serious conversations, and we're doing it all through games. So I feel like, there's like a bit of like responsibility on me and on Akil. I'm thinking about like Akil being like in Princeton and, Dr. Starks being in like the health field and the health sciences spaces, like there's like a responsibility that we have, to show this is what gaming can look like in these serious spaces. Yep. But I think these are just incremental changes. We still have a ways to go before we get to like kind of like more widespread change. So I don't want to I would never deter anybody from like studying gaming, but I need to make sure that they are flexible enough to be able to speak to different fields, just so they can make themselves legible to the committees and the people that might hire them.
I agree with you.
Work.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. Even as a full-time content creator, I can't just tell people, oh, I work in gaming, because they'll give me that like quick side eye, like, really? Gaming? So you kind of have to like the tiptoe being like, oh, I work in digital media, or I do this. But I feel like we really just need to have that conversation where let go of like the childish mind thinking that, oh, video games are for children, when really we see that everything is literally improving every single day. Why not add advanced technology like gaming into these type of fields too? Now, to follow up, where do you think educators can be more value to game devs and studios? When is the process where we shall pull you in?
I would like to see more social science around games. One of the things I'm really impressed with is reading how Genova Chen basically and that game company engineered all of the possible negative interactions out of Journey, and their games are known for being multiplayer but fun and welcoming. And I was thinking, like, I want more study on that. I want to see if we can actually design games so that they bring out the best in people, and we don't have situations where people are calling us words when we get in there, and women can go play and just have fun. And I would like to see, I would love to see like behavioral scientists and game devs get together and hash that out and see if we could influence positive behaviors through gaming.
I like that. Keel, what do you think?
Yeah, fully agree. Social sciences and humanities, for that matter, need to be engaged more within gaming, simply because it's forgive me, we keep seeing this process where people make amazing games, they're great to look at and do all this and to play with, but they are a lot of when it comes to Christian representation. Like, folks keep wondering why, like, they make these Black characters and then they fail, or the Black communities, various amounts obviously don't necessarily take to them, it's because they just lack the research, they lack the engagement, and Black people aren't monolithic. So it's not just speaking to one individual, it's speaking to specialists who has a broader understanding of the multifaceted nature of what Blackness can be or look like in that case. And there are some companies or games like Assassin's Creed or other places like that have done like a lot of historical and other things in terms of research, but there often seems to be a disconnect where they, like, some of the best research is done with the games that doesn't have strong gameplay, and some of the best gameplay has no research, and then they end up like pissing people off. So I think we can definitely be there to step in, stop those roadblocks as they come, and call it a day. Yeah.
Absolutely. Shauna, what do you think?
Yeah, I think for me, I wish, as Black educators in particular, I wish they would see us as being able to do something else other than DEI. I think that they think that that's like our only skill set. Oh, we got to talk about these, these Black characters, bring them on, the examples that we've shown. And then they think that that's like the only thing that we can do. So I wish they could recognize, what our skill sets are and, like other things that we can do and how we can contribute, right? So I see us as mostly being used like in this consulting kind of way, like a consulting space, helping them do better. But I also wish that they would bring us in like in more of like the ideation brainstorming phase. Because I remember I had this little consulting gig with like one of these companies and everything was already done. So they just like wanted a rubber stamp. They just wanted to be able to say, oh, this Black woman said it, it's okay. So, we'll sign off on it. But I don't really think they see enough like value in us, especially those of us who might not come from engineering or come from computer science or, like come from like, like the hard science, kind of spaces. And also, I'm thinking about like what Katrina was saying, especially since like I'm not traditionally like humanities. I don't have an English background. I don't have like a history background, so like I'm like in this weird space, because I ran, for the majority of my career, I've run experiments, essentially, and I've done ethnography, essentially. So I don't think, like Dr. Starks was saying, like they don't really understand that and how that could like contribute to a lot of the things that they're doing. And they need to pay us more. And they need to keep, hold on, I'm not done yet, my bad.
Say it louder in the back.
They need to stop laying these folks off. They need to keep these jobs. They need to slow down with the AI because they're doing the most with this. Journalism matters, so there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And of course, as educators, we're always learning ourselves. So are there any takeaways you've learned from your students or your other peers?
I taught a lot, but my specialty was twine for a long time. And I found that my students were actually designing in a way that was therapeutic. They were working stuff out. They were creating situations that they'd been in. And then the thing about twine is, of course, it's a text adventure maker. So you have a scenario and you give yourself choices, and you could actually go in and create a scenario that you felt like you handled badly and then give yourself choices. How do you wish you would have handled it? What could have possibly happened? And they were playing that out. And I thought that was fascinating. It wasn't a directive by me, even though it's totally something I'm into, but I thought that was lovely that they could just find a new aspect of something that, that is helpful for them.
Yeah. Since we're wrapping up, I'll keep it short. In terms of takeaways, I think there's a lot of opportunity for academia. There's a lot of unexplored territories. Something good academia is good at is asking really deep questions and getting to processes where companies are not anywhere near thinking, because they're all like representation. Meanwhile, many of us are asking of just like, how can we create new worlds in games for Black people to exist outside of the status quo. So games offer the opportunity for us to bridge that level of imagination. It gives us a tangible platform to be something that we may not be able to access physically, and it's just fantastic. I hope more can play, and I hope more people can research. So yeah.
Love it. I love that. Co-signing all that. Co-signing both of those things. I think like for me, there's always like these moments of like discovery, like in the classroom. So I love that this new generation has ushered, because I'm older, and so one of the things that I do love that this new generation has ushered in is like rest and play and protecting play. I'm really big about that right now. I know a lot of generations have, turn play into labor and work, especially in the streaming space. And, then I remember there was one of my students where they were like, okay, I'll stream that game, but when I play this game, it's just going to be rest and peace and play and calmness. And so I really love how they're protecting their energies and protecting their spaces and, putting up boundaries and like borders, to protect their energies and protect the things that they love. So I'm learning, to make sure to do that as well from them.
And we're learning every day. I like that. It's good to have something for work and then also something for like rest and for yourself, because at the end of the day, you only got yourself. But
at the end of the day go in.
Exactly. But thank you all so much for being a part of the Gaming for Educational panel. It was great talking to all three of you. Now, before we go, if you all can reintroduce yourself one more time, tell your socials, tell us everybody what you're working on. We'd love to see where we can continue to support you outside the panel too.
I'm Dr. Katrina Starks. I am at Katrina Starks everywhere, just my name. And yeah, I am looking forward to new research and new horizons. Nothing specific, but I'll announce it when I do it.
Keel?
Yeah, my name's Dr. Akil Fletcher, or just Akil. Feel free to look me up on all the socials. Same thing, Akil Fletcher, because I wasn't too creative when writing all that stuff out. And feel free to read anything that I've written somewhere, Google Scholar, or whatever else. And when I'm done writing this book, hopefully by like 2026, then feel free to read that. So yeah.
Let's go.
I love it. And so again, Kishonna Gray, you can find me at Kishonna Gray, KISHONNAGRAY on all social media. And also there's the 10th anniversary of my first book, Race, Gender, and Deviance in Xbox Live is coming out. And our lovely queen, Ebonics, the wonderful creator that has done wonderful stuff like around The Sims, she did the foreword, so she's included in that. And I love just the continued collaborations and relationships that we've built. Shout outs to BlackGirlGamers, for holding down the culture and elevating this stuff. I want to make sure to shout them out. And also Die Hard Diva, thank you for holding us down. Beautiful job on this panel. Thank you so much for facilitating this conversation.
Thank you, everybody. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little nervous first time moderating, but you know what? This is an important conversation. It needs to be had. So thank you all so much. Again, I am Die Hard Diva, full-time content creator, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok. I mainly focus on horror and dark fantasy RPGs. Make sure y'all stick around. Although this panel is done, there are still so many amazing panels throughout the online summit today. Y'all stick around and we'll see y'all next time. Thank you again, Black Girl Gamers, and we'll see y'all later. Bye!